All right, here is section 4, the calculator section from the redesigned SAT practice test 1, and this is the fifth part, my fifth video on this section. In this video, I'm going to do problems 31 through 38. So on previous videos, I did 1 through 10 here, 11. Anyways, I did these earlier problems, but now I'm done with the multiple choice part, and I'm jumping ahead to these where you fill in your answers. So there's how you fill in answers. Here is 31. Wyatt can husk at least 12 dozen ears of corn per hour, and at most 18 dozen ears of corn per hour. Based on this information, what is a possible amount of time, which is strange, in hours that it could take him to husk 72? Well, if you can do 12 per hour, for example, assume he could do 12, how many hours would it take him to do 72? Well, just 72 divided by 12. 72 divided by 12 is 6. So it could take him 6 hours, but maybe he's working faster. Maybe he's doing 18 per hour. So maybe it's 72 divided by 18, in which case you get 4. So you're like, what do I put in? Or maybe he's not working at either of those rates. Maybe he's working slow for a while, then fast for a while, then slow for a while, or some rate in between. Well, the correct answer would be any number between 4 and 6. 4 would work, 6 would work, 5 would work. If you're trying to be funny, put in some crazy decimal like 5.23475, whatever. Any number between 4 and 6 should work. And although I think it's kind of a strange question, that's all I got for this question. 32. The posted weight limit for a covered wooden bridge in Pennsylvania is 6,000 pounds. A delivery truck that is carrying X identical boxes, each weighing 14 pounds, will pass over the bridge. If the combined weight of the empty delivery truck and its driver is 4,500 pounds, what is the maximum possible value of X that will keep the combined weight of the truck, driver, and boxes below the bridge's posted weight limit? Okay. So this ends up being a linear equation. The weight of the truck is, well, it weighs 4,500 no matter what, but then it also weighs an extra 14 pounds for each of the X boxes that I have. And the weight limit is 6,000 pounds. So maybe we'll figure out what X would have to be equal to so that this is true. Okay, so let's solve. Let's figure out how many boxes, what X would have to be equal to, in order for the truck and its driver and the boxes to weigh exactly 6,000 pounds. Well, if I solve this equation, I would subtract 4,500 from both sides to get that 14X equals 1,500. And then I could divide 1,500 by 14 with my calculator, since this is the calculator portion, to get that X is equal to 107 point something, 107.14. And you're like, wait, that's approximately right. And when I read this problem, it sounded kind of strange. It said that I have to keep it below the limit. And can I really have 107.14 boxes? Well, you're correct, and you're correct. What we're looking for is the largest value of X, but it's kind of implied that X is a whole number since it's the number of boxes. So how big can X be so that the weight is less than the maximum? Well, if X is exactly 107.14, the weight would be exactly the maximum. So to be less than the maximum, I need to be some number less than 107.14. And since I need to be a whole number, say my answer would be 107 here. All right, 33. We're given the number of portable media players sold worldwide, this graph here, and asked, according to the line above, the number of portable media players sold in 2008, which looks like it's 100, but note these are millions, is what fraction of the number sold in 2011, which appears to be 160. So they're asking you 100 is what fraction of 160? Well, you take 100 and divide it by 160. And these are both in millions, but you can just type min as 100 divided by 160 and get 0.625. Oh, but it didn't want that. It wanted it as a fraction, huh? It didn't want a decimal. Okay, so I wonder if I have to reduce my fractions. I should probably read the instructions. I can tell you could enter this as 100 divided by 160, or you could reduce, and you're like, that's 10 over 16 if I cancel out the zeros. That's true, but it's also 5 over 8. Or you could enter this as a decimal, 0.625. Best I can tell, any of those would work, but I'll leave the specifics of this up to you, how you're supposed to enter your answers. That's kind of the mathematical answer. 34. A local television station sells time slots For programs in 30-minute intervals, if the station operates in 24 hours per day, every day of the week, what is the total number of 30-minute time slots the station can sell for Tuesday and Wednesday? Okay, so I have 2 per hour, right? Because there's 2 of these 30 minutes in every hour. And then I have 24 hours per day. So 2 times 24 per day. But I have 2 days. So I have 2 times 48, which is equal to 96 for Tuesday and Wednesday. So for my answer, I'd come up with 96 here. Okay, moving on, 35. A dairy farmer uses a storage silo that is in the shape of a right circular cylinder above. The volume of the silo is this thing. What is the diameter? They probably give you the volume at the front of this thing of a cylinder. I know they give you a bunch of different formulas and such, geometric stuff. So I'll refer back to that. Hey, there it is. The volume of a cylinder is pi r squared times h. That's true. If you have that memorized, that's great. If you refer back to the front of your test, that's fine too. It turns out that that's one of those things that you don't really have to, the formula sort of makes sense. If you know that pi r squared is the area of a circle, you can just think about this as I have a circle times however many of them there are, sort of the height of this thing. Anyways, I know that the volume is pi r squared times h. And I'm told that the volume is 72 pi. And I'm asked what is the diameter? Well, I know that h is equal to 8. That's labeled in my picture here. So I got pi r squared times 8 is equal to 72 pi. So if I divide both sides of the equation by pi, I get r squared times 8 is equal to 72. And I can then divide by 8 to get that r squared is equal to 9. And r, if I take the square root of both sides, is 3. Really, it's plus or minus 3, but radius has to be a positive measure. I get r equals 3. I bet a lot of people put 3 in as their answer. Be careful, 3 is not the answer, because it's not asking for the radius, it's asking for the diameter. Even underline that for you. The radius is the distance from the center to any point on the circle. The diameter is the distance all the way across the circle through the middle. So the diameter is equal to twice the radius, which would be 6 in this case. All right, 36. For what value of x is the function h above undefined? Undefined for the purposes of an SAT test means don't divide by 0 and don't take the square root of a negative number. In this case, only dividing by 0 is what I have to deal with. So I have to make sure that this thing that's in the denominator, this x minus 5 squared plus 4 times x minus 5 plus 4 thing, I have to make sure that this entire mess does not equal 0. So maybe I'll set it equal to 0 and solve and figure out what value of x will make this equal to 0. And that'll tell me what value of x will make this function undefined. There is some fancy factoring way you can do this. You can factor in terms of x minus 5s, but I think it's easier to expand and then contract. I think if you FOIL this out, most people would do it this way. Most students would do it this way. X minus 5 squared, if you FOIL that out, you get x squared minus 10x plus 25. And then if you take this 4 and distribute it through, you get 4x minus 20. And then we have this plus 4, set that equal to 0. And now if you combine like terms, I got my x squared there. As far as x's, I have negative 10 of them there, but positive 4 of them there. So that nets out to negative 6x. And then as far as constants, I have 25 minus 20. So now I'm a net of positive 5 plus 4 more. So that gives me 9. So the equation I have is x squared minus 6x plus 9 equals 0. And now if I factor this guy, this factors as x minus 3 times x minus 3. I can say my solutions will happen when this x minus 3 equals 0 or this x minus 3 equals 0. In other words, when x minus 3 equals 0 or when x equals 3. If x equals 3, then the denominator equals 0, so this thing is undefined. It's easy enough to check that. You can change all the x's into 3's. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. Squared is positive 4. And then 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. So I get 4 minus 8 plus 4. And sure enough, that does make the bottom 0. All right, 37. Last 2 problems on this test. Jessica opened a bank account that earns 2% interest compounded annually. Her initial deposit was $100, and she uses this expression to find the value of the account after T years. What is X? Well, the way to think about it is she starts out with $100, but then every year she gets an extra 2%. So her money gets multiplied by 1.02. If you just multiply by 0.02, she'd be losing all her money. You need that extra 1 to say she gets her $100 back, but the 0.02 refers to the interest that she gets. And not just in the first year, this happens every single year. So after the next year, I'd have another 1.02 here. Then after the third year, there'd be a third 1.02 year here. In other words, after T years, I'm going to have T of these 1.02 factors. So really my expression is that her money, maybe, I don't know, Y, is 100 times 1.02 to the T power. That didn't ask me for all that. It just asked what is inside these parentheses. X is equal to 1.02. What about 38? 38 says Jessica's friend Tyshawn found an account that earns 2.5% interest compounded annually. So Tyshawn guessed 100 times 1.025 to the T power, whereas Jessica only guessed 100 times 1.02 to the T power. Tyshawn did an initial deposit of $100. That's why this is 100 right here, into this account at the same time that Jessica deposited 100, which is why this is 100. After 10 years, how much more money will Tyshawn have than Jessica will have? And then it says round your answer, ignore the $sign when you put your answer in. So you could get clever and think about the difference that he's making an extra 0.5% each time. But I think what most students would do is just, why don't you calculate the money? Why don't you say it's 100 times 1.025 to the 10th power. And so this guy has $128.01. Maybe I'll put a couple decimal places in just in case. 0.0085. More than enough. And what's Jessica have? Well, hers is very similar. I'll copy this in here. Except instead of 1.025, she just has 1.02. She makes 2%. And so she ends up with 121.8994. And what did it ask me? Round your answer to the nearest cent. So what I want to do is subtract these two numbers. So I want to do 128.00845 and subtract the answer that I just came up with. And that gives me 6.109, which rounds to 6.11, which would be the difference that they had. Be careful rounding these answers. If you round these answers too early, sometimes the difference in rounded answers could be different than the rounding of the difference. So I like to not round or round very little until the very end and then round your final answer. But in this one, it would work out that you could round earlier to the nearest penny and then subtract, and you'd still get $6.11, which is the amount of extra money Tyshawn has versus Jessica after 10 years. And that's the end of this. So I'll end this video here.